All right, this is a second tutorial on how to manipulate your data for my courses. Here we'll talk about how to index data. I'll explain what indexing is. So we can go to the indexing chart. So here is our original data. If we graph this as I've shown you, just highlight it, insert a line graph, you can see from this graph that country C, you could even see this from the original data, country C has much higher levels of whatever this behavior is than the others, and even though countries A and B are different, the difference between them is so small that you can't really tell the difference. They're both right on top of each other. So it suggests that graphing the data in this way is not particularly useful. So what we're going to do is get rid of that, and we're going to do what's called indexing. Essentially, indexing is merely making everything relative to a common base year. So in this case, we're going to imagine that our treaty was signed in 1986 and make each country's emissions, let's call these emissions, relative to their base year. So it's just each country's numbers in one year as a percentage of their numbers in the base year. In this example, 86 is the base year. For each case, what we do is we're going to look at this formula and we're going to say, here's the formula. We take the number in the current year in our current column and divide it by the data in the other column for that country. So B2, the dollar sign here just says that when I use this formula and copy it, make sure I'm always keeping C as the element of this. And it'll make a little more sense when you see it. So make sure that the column's right. And so we say this is 50%. And we can actually copy this to all of the other cells. And then we're going to look and see if it came out right. First of all, we can just eyeball it ourselves and see that 40,000 is 400% of 10,000. And we can check that the formula is right. Here you can see that compared to this one, the B and the C and all the things that don't have dollars in front of them changed when we copied it, but the thing that had a dollar in front of it didn't. So here we can look that the E and the 4 changed in the numerator, and the 4 changed in the denominator, but the C did not. So that makes when we copied this throughout this whole range, it ensured that everything was for each number here, we're looking at dividing that country's emissions in that column by their emissions in the 1986 column. So this is D3 divided by C3, and you would expect this one to be E3 divided by C3. Now we can then graph this again, and you'll see the benefits of this. So again, we're just doing the quick graphing thing, making sure we have a rectangle here with an empty cell, countries down the rows, years across the columns, and we insert this. And now we can see these graphs are quite different. Because essentially we're comparing each country to its own baseline behavior in the year of the treaty. So that should help you get a first beginnings approach to your analysis of your data, especially when one or more countries are pretty different than the others. So we'll stop there, and there'll be one more video.